Story 1: The Basement Game. I grew up in a small town in northern Pennsylvania, where boredom was basically a part of everyday life. Back then, my friends and I would do anything to keep ourselves entertained, and one of our favorite games was hide and seek. But one night, when I was 12, we decided to take that game somewhere we shouldn't have. Into a basement that was never meant to be entered after dark. It was summer, humid, and heavy with that kind of air that makes the woods feel alive. My friend Tyler's parents were out of town, and his older brother, Luke, was supposed to be watching us. But Luke didn't really care what we did. He was upstairs playing Xbox with his girlfriend on speakerphone. So, naturally, we wanted to do something creepy. Tyler suggested we play hide and seek in the basement. Now, Tyler's basement wasn't normal. It wasn't finished. It was the kind of old stone-walled cellar that smelled like dirt and iron. The kind that looked like it was built 100 years before the rest of the house. We weren't supposed to go down there. His mom had told us it was dangerous because the floor was uneven and some parts of the wall were crumbling. But to a bunch of 12-year-olds trying to prove who was the bravest, that sounded perfect. The game started simple. I was at first. We turned off all the lights except for a single flashlight, which we left in the corner as a kind of safe zone. The rules were, if I found someone and tagged them, they'd help me find the others. If I couldn't find everyone after 10 minutes, the hiders won. The basement had a low ceiling, pipes hanging overhead, and old furniture covered in dusty sheets. The air was thick and damp. I could actually taste the rust in it. I counted to 30 with my eyes closed, trying to ignore how cold it felt down there. When I opened them, the only sound was the faint dripping of water from one of the pipes. I started searching. The beam of my flashlight cut through the dark, catching glimpses of old toys, broken chairs, and boxes stacked up against the far wall. I was halfway through calling out, "Ready or not, here I come," when I heard something that didn't fit. A shuffle, then breathing, but not the kind of quick, giggly breathing you expect from someone hiding. This was slow, deep, almost wet. I whispered, "Tyler." No answer. I figured he was trying to mess with me. He was the kind of kid who loved jump-scaring people. So I followed the sound, walking between the old shelves. The deeper I went, the colder the air got. Then the flashlight flickered. Just once. Then again. When it came back on, I saw something that made my stomach twist. There was a shape, a figure, standing behind a pillar about 20 feet away. It was tall. Too tall to be one of us. For a second, I thought it was Luke, trying to scare us. I yelled, "Okay, not funny." But the shape didn't move. It just shifted like it was swaying side to side. Then I realized it wasn't swaying. It was breathing. I stepped back and tripped over something, a toy car, I think. The noise echoed, and the flashlight slipped from my hand, rolling across the floor. It stopped near a pile of boxes, lighting up the far wall. And for half a second, I saw a face. Pale, eyes wide, mouth open like it had been screaming for a very long time. I scrambled up, grabbed the flashlight, and bolted for the stairs, only to realize the door at the top was closed. Locked. I started pounding on it, yelling for Luke. No one answered. The only sound behind me was the creak of something heavy stepping closer. Then a hand grabbed my shoulder. I screamed, but it was Tyler. He was pale, shaking. "Dude, what the hell is that thing?" he whispered. He'd been hiding behind an old wardrobe, and he said he saw it too. A tall, thin figure walking along the wall, dragging its fingers across the concrete. I told him the door was locked. We both turned around, and the flashlight flickered again, the beam landing on something carved into the wall near the bottom of the stairs. It looked like a door outline drawn in chalk, except it wasn't drawn. The lines were burned into the stone. Tyler whispered, "That wasn't there before." We both stood frozen as the breathing grew louder, closer. And then from inside that outline, something knocked back. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. That's when Luke finally opened the door, yelling down that his game had crashed and asking what we were screaming about. We rushed upstairs, slammed the door behind us, and refused to go back down. Luke laughed at first, until we told him about the burned outline on the wall. He went down to check it out himself and came back up 5 minutes later, completely silent. We asked him what he saw. He just said, "You guys shouldn't be playing games in other people's rooms." And he locked the basement door and hid the key. We didn't understand what he meant until a week later when Tyler's parents came home. His mom got furious when she found out we'd been down there. She said the basement wasn't part of the original house. It was an old storage room from the family who owned the property before, a family that went missing in 1972. They'd had a daughter, around our age, who vanished during a game of hide and seek. The police found the game still set up. Every kid had been found except her. And on the basement wall, they found the same outline of a door burned into the stone. We moved away the next summer. Tyler's family still owns that house, but the basement door has been sealed shut for years now. Last I heard, someone new bought the place, a couple with a little girl. And when I drove by recently, I saw her in the yard, counting out loud with her eyes closed. She was playing hide and seek, and the basement light was on. Story 2, the last round. I used to babysit a little boy named Mason when I was in high school. He was 7, smart, talkative, and obsessed with horror movies. Every Friday night, his parents would go out to dinner, and I'd come over around 6 to watch him until they got back. Usually, we'd play games or watch cartoons, but one night in late October, he begged me to play hide and seek. Now, I played with him before, but this time felt different. The house was quieter than usual. His parents had turned off most of the lights before leaving, and the only glow came from the TV in the living room. Still, I agreed. He smiled, clapped his hands, and said, "Let's play the basement version." I frowned. "The basement version?" He nodded, grinning. "Mom doesn't like when I play it, but it's more fun. There's another player down there." I laughed, thinking he meant an imaginary friend. Kids have those. But I wasn't about to let a 7-year-old go alone into a dark basement. So I told him he could hide upstairs this time. He looked disappointed. Then he said something that I still hear in my head sometimes. "Okay, but if she asks where I went, don't tell her." Before I could ask what he meant, he ran off to hide. I started counting. When I reached 20, I began searching, checking behind curtains, under tables, the usual places. But Mason wasn't anywhere. I called out, "All right, I give up. You win." No answer. Then I heard it, a soft laugh coming from the basement door. It wasn't Mason's laugh. It was slower, raspier. I froze. The basement door was open about an inch. The light switch was at the top of the stairs, but when I flipped it, nothing happened. "Okay, Mason," I said, trying to sound brave. "I'm coming down." The air grew colder the deeper I went. My phone flashlight cut through the dark, catching dust motes floating in the still air. Halfway down, I heard whispering, not words but the sound of lips moving, quick and breathy. At the bottom of the stairs, I saw him, Mason, standing perfectly still, facing the corner of the basement. I sighed in relief and said, "Gotcha. You scared me." He didn't move. "Hey, I said I found you." Still nothing. When I got closer, I realized he was whispering to the wall. I leaned in and heard him say, "She doesn't like when I talk to you. She says it ruins the game." My stomach dropped. "Who doesn't?" I asked quietly. He turned his head just enough for me to see his face. His eyes were wide open, but he wasn't blinking. And then behind him, I saw movement. A shadow on the wall stretched, even though nothing was there to cast it. The shadow's head tilted, matching Mason's every movement, but it was delayed, like an echo. I stumbled backward, shining the flashlight straight at it, and the shadow snapped to face me. The air went completely still. Mason whispered, "She found you." And before I could react, the light went out. I ran up the stairs as fast as I could, tripping halfway, scraping my knee on the edge. I slammed the basement door shut and locked it. Then I heard something scratch at the wood from the other side, slow, dragging nails. After about 30 seconds, it stopped. Then Mason started crying upstairs. He'd somehow appeared behind me in the living room. I grabbed him and asked how he got there. He said, "She let me go because you took my place." I didn't understand what he meant. I thought he was just being weird, maybe traumatized. When his parents came home, I told them what happened, minus the supernatural part. But before I left, his mom asked me something strange. She said, "He didn't make you play the basement game, did he?" I froze and asked what that meant. She looked pale and said, "When he was 5, he used to talk to someone down there. He said it was a woman who lived behind the wall. After we stopped letting him play down there, he said she got mad. He calls her the one who hides last." I told her everything, and she went white as a sheet. They moved out 2 months later. I didn't see Mason again until years later at the grocery store. He was maybe 13 by then. We made small talk, and I joked, "Still playing hide and seek?" He smiled in a way that didn't feel like a kid's smile. Then he said, "No, I don't have to anymore. She found someone else." He nodded toward the back of the store. I turned and saw a woman, maybe in her 40s, standing completely still near the freezer section, staring straight at me. She smiled when our eyes met, and then she mouthed, "Your turn." Story 3, the one who didn't hide. While I was 15, I worked as a junior counselor at a summer camp in Vermont. The camp had been around since the 1950s, the kind of place where you could smell pine trees and lake water mixed with bug spray. Every Friday night, we'd host game night for the younger kids before lights out. The last game of the season was always hide and seek around the cabins, a tradition that every counselor swore by. Except for one. His name was Eric. He was an older counselor, maybe in his 20s, and he hated that game. He told us that years ago, something happened during hide and seek that the camp never talked about. We thought he was just trying to spook the rookies. Until that final Friday night. It started like any normal game. Tutti campers. 6 counselors. 1 seeker. The rules were simple. No hiding past the lake trail, and everyone had to return to the mess hall once the whistle blew. The seeker that night was a kid named Ryan, 10 years old, fearless and loud. He counted by the flagpole while the others scattered into the dark woods. I was stationed near cabin 3, watching for stragglers. I could hear the laughter echoing through the trees, flashlights blinking like fireflies. But about 15 minutes in, the woods went quiet. Too quiet. Then I heard Ryan calling out, "Guys, stop messing around. I can't find anyone." He sounded upset, almost scared. When I reached him, he was standing by the path near the lake, flashlight shaking in his hand. He said he'd found everyone except one girl, Abby, a shy 8-year-old from cabin 2. At first, we thought she was just really good at hiding. But after 20 minutes, the counselors got nervous. We blew the whistle 3 times, the signal to stop the game. Everyone came out of hiding, except Abby. We searched everywhere, under the docks, behind cabins, even inside the storage shed. No sign of her. The camp shut down early that year. I went home and tried to forget. But about a month later, I got a call from Ryan's mom. She said he hadn't been sleeping. He told her that at night, he heard knocking on his window, 3 knocks, and a voice whispering, "Your turn to seek." 2 weeks later, he disappeared. His window was open, curtains swaying in the breeze. The police found only one thing written on the glass in what looked like dust. I quit working at camps after that. But sometimes when I drive through the Vermont woods, I swear I see a small cabin light flickering through the trees. And every time I do, I hear a little girl's voice in the back of my head whisper, "If you've ever played hide and seek in the dark, remember this. Not everything that hides wants to be found." If tonight's stories made you check over your shoulder, hit that like button, subscribe for more true horror, and comment me.